In my senior year of high school, the school beauty, Song Shuyao, once borrowed money from me for medical treatment and told me not to tell anyone. As it turned out, she went to get an abortion and died from excessive bleeding on the operating table of a small clinic. Years later, the introverted and studious Lu Jingyan persistently pursued me and proposed to me. He locked me in a basement on the outskirts of town until I was 8 months pregnant. He slit open my belly and said, "You owe Yao Yao and our child a life." It turned out that before she died, the school beauty had held his hand and told him not to blame me. He firmly believed that I had deliberately murdered his beloved wife and child. That day, I died with my eyes open at Lu Jingyan's hands. Then, full of hatred, I remembered the day Song Shuyao came to borrow money from me. On the 10th day of being locked in the basement, I began to smell foul. During that time, I tried countless ways to escape, but all failed. This basement had been specially built for me 3 years ago, with only one exit. Just as I was about to give up all hope, a faint ray of light suddenly shone through the crack in the door. Hunger had left me dizzy and barely able to stand. So, I carefully cradled my belly and crawled toward the stairs. A pair of exquisite black handmade leather shoes appeared before me. The owner of the shoes placed his foot on my palm. I looked up at him, clutching his pant leg with my other hand, and finally begged, "Lu Jingyan." I really didn't know Song Shuyao was pregnant at the time. She only said she needed to borrow money from me for medical treatment. Lu Jingyan grabbed my hair, frowned, and said with disgust, "You really think I'd believe that? Who do you think you are, daring to mention Yao Yao's name? Do you know how wonderful she was? On her deathbed, she told me that you had a crush on me, asked me to forget her, and take good care of you." He spoke with a fanatical expression. Me, have a crush on Lu Jingyan? That was a long time ago. Back then, Song Shuyao hadn't even started dating him yet. It wasn't until Lu Jingyan locked me up that I realized they had eventually gotten together. And the child Song Shuyao was carrying was actually his. But now, no matter how I explained, it was useless. Song Shuyao was already dead. The baby kicked restlessly in my belly. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to do it. It was a living being after all. I looked at Lu Jingyan, held back my tears, and continued, "You can kill me to avenge Song Shuyao, but this child isn't just mine, it's yours too. Please, spare his life." "Okay, child. You're truly foolish. I would never let a cheap woman like you carry my child. You were actually lucky to end up with that scumbag I introduced you to." I felt as if I had been struck by lightning. No wonder, since we got married, the number of times he had touched me could be counted on one hand. I had been mostly unaware of it. He only said I was too tired. Now that I thought about it, I suspected he must have drugged her, and he had planned all of this from the very beginning. At that thought, hatred instantly consumed me. Taking advantage of Lu Jingyan's momentary distraction, I bit down on his hand with almost all my strength. My mouth filled with the taste of blood, and all I wanted was to drag this man down with me. The blade pierced my abdomen, and intense pain instantly swept through my nerves. My hands and feet were bound, so I couldn't even beg for a quick end. Lu Jingyan held the blood-soaked baby up to me and said, "Qin Yuan, you killed Yao Yao's child. Now it's finally your turn." I stared at him with wide eyes, unable to look away. I hated him so much. I really hated him. I had only lent her some money. I had a brief crush on him when I was young and naive. Why did it turn out like this? I couldn't accept it. Why did I have to suffer such a cruel and painful death? Why did those who hurt me still have the audacity to shift all the blame onto me? I would rather become a demon than watch him get away with his heart ripped out, his tongue cut off, every inch of his flesh torn apart while I couldn't get revenge. Perhaps it was because I was too immersed in my obsession. Suddenly, a hazy white mist rose before my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day Song Shuyao came to borrow money from me. I was still in class when Song Shuyao sent me a message. My high school was a 100-year-old school and a top-tier model high school, so the teachers constantly pushed us, and we rarely had the chance to use our phones. Only a few students would secretly bring them into the dorms so they could play for a while after evening study ended. She had been contacting me frequently lately. She told me she wasn't feeling well, so I kept urging her to see a doctor. Afraid of missing her messages, I only grabbed a bread roll for lunch and hurried back to the dormitory today. I must have had low blood sugar. I was dizzy for a while before I recovered. When I opened my eyes, I remembered everything from my past life. An intense wave of hatred instantly consumed me. My hands trembled as I held my phone. The chat window showed the exact same message as in my previous life. Yuan. I'm sorry, but I really have no choice. I'm sick and need at least 5,000 yuan. But I only have a little over 2,000 on me. Can you lend me some? I promise I'll pay you back. In my previous life, I had pressed her about what kind of illness she had. She retorted, her embarrassment turning into anger. Aren't you afraid I won't agree? I've known Song Shuyao since we were kids. She's always been good at manipulating me. Just one sentence had trapped me in a cycle of self-justification. At the time, I considered her my best friend. How could I let her think that way? Perhaps she just didn't want anyone to know her private business. Since I was still a student at the time, I had saved about 2,000 yuan over 2 years, but I was still short by 1,000. My monthly living allowance was 800 yuan. I lent her 500, but she said it wasn't enough and asked me to see if I could borrow more. So I had no choice but to ask my roommates for help. In the end, I scraped together another 500 yuan for her. In fact, for the next 2 months, I survived on 1.5 yuan packs of instant noodles just to pay off the debt. I never received any news from Song Shuyao about her recovery. In fact, after I lent her the money, I was never able to contact her again. It wasn't until after the college entrance exams that I happened to hear my mother say that Song Shuyao had died from excessive bleeding after an abortion at a small clinic. This was completely unexpected. I had a big fight with my mother, asking her why she didn't tell me. She calmly accepted my outburst and said, "What's the use of telling you this? Aren't you going to take the college entrance exam? I've said before that we're not suitable to be friends. As for Qin Yuan, I hope you understand that you can't interfere with anyone's fate." In the following days, I fell into endless self-blame. I couldn't help but think, if I had been more cautious back then, if I had asked a few more questions, would Song Shuyao still be alive? Before marrying Lu Jingyan, I reflected seriously on myself and brought up this past with him. At that moment, he held me tightly in his arms. I couldn't see the expression on his face, but when his tears fell on my neck, I was completely moved and felt I had found my soulmate. He understood everything about me, even empathized with my pain. When he cried, was he thinking about whether my words were true or false? Or was he moved to tears because his revenge was one step closer? Now that I had been given a second chance at life, I was no longer the same pitiful, naive high school student. I scrolled through our chat history. His expression grew colder and colder. Since she dropped out in her sophomore year of high school, she had been constantly sending me photos of her glamorous nightlife. Then she would deliberately say in a coy tone, Qin Yuan, I really don't understand what's so fun about studying. Don't you find it boring? Why don't you sneak out tonight and we'll go to a bar? I'll give you a real education. My reply was, Yao. It's not safe for a girl like you outside. While you still have your student status, you should come back and repeat a year. Otherwise, what will we do when we grow up? Song Shuyao, I'm just not good at studying. Do you really have to show off in front of me? Her words were a bit harsh, so I didn't want to respond to her after that. At the time, I was really angry. Not long after, she came to me again, sneaking into school to bring me flowers. Yuan, don't be mad, okay? You know I'm just a good-hearted person who speaks bluntly. I just want you to be as happy as I am. It hurts me to see you so tired every day. Song Shuyao, everything gets tiring. I just hope things will be easier later. Forget it, bookworm. I'm done talking to you. Did Song Shuyao really care about me? Did she really sympathize with me? She would mess with me during diagnostic exams, forcing me to sneak out of school to celebrate her birthday. Would I really go that far? To the point where Lu Jingyan couldn't blame me. Then she would exaggerate and tell him about that little crush I had on him in my first year of high school. Thinking of this, I looked at her anxious messages in the chat window and coldly replied, "Yao Yao, why do you need to borrow so much money? What illness do you have?" Just like in her past life, she immediately flew into a rage. Messages flooding out like crazy. "What do you mean? Qin Yuan. If you don't want to lend me money, just say so. Fine. You look down on me, don't you? You're afraid I won't pay you back, aren't you?" Seeing these messages, I found it both ironic and laughable. I was about to type out a rejection when I suddenly thought of a better plan. "My dear friend, isn't death simple? Living is much more interesting. Yao Yao, I don't have that much money, but I can pool some with my roommates. Come to the classroom this afternoon and I'll give it to you. Yuan. I knew you were the best. See you this afternoon." During the afternoon break, Song Shuyao arrived on time outside the classroom to find me. The next class was taught by teacher Qin Yu. Her grandfather was a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, so teacher Qin knew some basic pulse taking and diagnosis. Whenever a student felt unwell, she was always the first to notice and take them to see a doctor. I deliberately borrowed money from classmates and made a big show of announcing Song Shuyao's illness. In her past life, she had repeatedly told me not to tell anyone, saying she didn't want to be gossiped about. She had been having a hard time borrowing money lately, and she'd even forgotten to mention it to me. But even if she had reminded me, I wouldn't have listened. Yuan, did you save up enough money?" she asked anxiously, grabbing my hand. I was just about to speak when teacher Qin suddenly appeared and grabbed Song Shuyao's arm. "Song Shuyao, why are you borrowing money? Do you?" Before she could finish, her face suddenly turned extremely grim. "Song Shuyao, come to my office." Hearing this, Song Shuyao's expression changed drastically. She shook off teacher Qin's hand and said, "I'm not a student here anymore. What right do you have to tell me what to do? If you're not a student here, then why are you here? Call your parents. I need to discuss your enrollment with them." "You old witch, are you deliberately trying to provoke me? You think you can call anyone you want, just because you're some big shot? Is that it?" Song Shuyao didn't even take the money. She shoved teacher Qin and ran off. That night, back in the dormitory, I logged onto QQ and asked anxiously, Yao, why were you so angry with the teacher? How's your illness? You haven't even gotten the money yet. I don't need your fake kindness. You did that on purpose so everyone would know I borrowed money from you, didn't you? Yao, is that really how you see me? I didn't have enough money, so of course I had to borrow from others. Is it that you can't talk about your illness? After I sent that, I turned off my phone and went to sleep. In my dream, Lu Jingyan's face grew clearer and clearer. It was covered in my blood, and he stared at me like a demon coming to claim my soul. But strangely, I wasn't afraid at all. Instead, I stared back with wide eyes, trying to memorize his face. Even in the dream, I frantically grabbed at everything, determined to drag him down with me. I woke up with my fists clenched and my body drenched in sweat. Lu Jingyan, in this life, I will repay you 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold, for all the suffering you inflicted on me. Teacher Qin Yu was a very responsible person. After learning that Song Shuyao was pregnant, she didn't make a scene but immediately found the homeroom teacher and contacted Song Shuyao's parents together. They were worried that although Song Shuyao had dropped out, she was still a minor and something might happen to her. Song Shuyao's father was a man who valued his reputation greatly and couldn't keep a secret. He immediately grabbed Song Shuyao and started yelling at her. Soon, the neighbors all found out about it, including a classmate who lived near Song Shuyao's home. Of course, Lu Jingyan was well aware of this. He took 3 consecutive days off. When he returned to school, Lu Jingyan stormed over to me angrily. I was sitting at my desk doing homework when he suddenly grabbed a stack of books from beside me and threw them at me, saying, Qin Yuan, I never thought you'd be this kind of person. I easily dodged the attack. Then stood up and slapped him across the face. Are you crazy? What kind of person do you think I am? He was stunned by the slap and stood there frozen. By the time he came to his senses, his face was bright red. He was about to charge at me when a male classmate standing next to him grabbed him. I stood there, looking at him with confusion. Lu Jingyan, explain to me right now what exactly I did to you. You know exactly what you did. I'm warning you. No matter what dirty tricks you pull, I won't let you get away with it. Oh, so you're the one who told me to tell you. But you won't say anything. You can't even explain what I did. So what exactly are you talking about right now? Lu Jingyan wanted to say something, but hesitated and ultimately stayed silent. He seemed unwilling to let anyone know that he and Song Shuyao had crossed the line and that she had gotten pregnant because of it. He just gently pushed aside the classmate holding him back, smoothed down his wrinkled jacket, and said, "Nothing. I just personally don't like you. I'm very dissatisfied with you. I would never like someone like you in my life. Are you satisfied now? Ha ha ha. Do you even realize what you're saying? Why should I care whether you like me or not? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Qin Yuan. You know exactly what I'm talking about." Seeing how confident he looked, I found it laughable. It seemed Song Shuyao had told him about our previous conversations a long time ago. They were both so full of themselves. Song Shuyao thought it was impressive that she could win over someone I liked. Lu Jingyan was utterly convinced by Song Shuyao's words and was certain that I must like him. What do I know? You never say things clearly. Besides, if you really have a problem with me, I suggest you calm down first. Think about what you want to say to me. Then find a big enough piece of paper and write down all your grievances. Even if you change, my opinion of you won't change. No, you're thinking too much. What I mean is, keep those words to yourself and say them in your next life. Qin Yuan, don't keep saying my name. When you say it like that, it makes my name sound disgusting. To my surprise, as soon as evening study ended, Song Shuyao contacted me again. I received a message on QQ. Yuan, what's wrong with you? Don't you really like Lu Jingyan? Why did you fight with him so badly? Did Lu Jingyan tell you? After a moment of silence, another message came through. What are you talking about? Why would Lu Jingyan tell me something like that? We're not close. I heard it from other classmates. What's going on? Don't you like him? I had known Lu Jingyan longer than Song Shuyao had. Back then, we were in the same competition team. He was handsome and kind. But most importantly, one time when I was walking home late and encountered some troublemakers, Lu Jingyan showed up just in time and scared them off. He even drove me home. Later, Song Shuyao dated him a few times and asked me if I wanted to give it a try. Give it a try, she said. A high school life without romance is incomplete. That's when you're at your youngest and most innocent. Only the person you fall in love with then is the one you truly love. From now on, everyone I meet will be an adult who weighs pros and cons and plays mind games. At the time, I thought that sounded a bit strange, but I couldn't think of a proper rebuttal. She fell silent. But Lu Jingyan's image flashed through her mind. Song Shuyao and I had known each other since we were kids. She immediately pressed me about whether I had anyone I liked. I said I didn't know if I liked him, but he had helped me and he was a good person. She said that was love and told me I had to seize the opportunity. Otherwise, if I missed it, I would miss it forever. Song Shuyao dropped out in the first semester of her sophomore year. She had no idea back then. Later, our high school life became so busy and exhausting that those little feelings were long forgotten in some corner. Even after she died, when Lu Jingyan reappeared in front of me, I suddenly remembered, as if in a dream. That encounter I once thought was beautiful ended up being my fatal wound. Thinking of this, I opened QQ and didn't answer the question, instead deliberately changing the subject. Yao, how's your health? Let's not talk about that for now. How are things with you and Lu Jingyan? There's nothing between him and me, we're just classmates. In the same competition team. He got physical that day and I was pretty upset. So, do you still like him? I deliberately didn't reply to that message and turned off my phone to sleep. The National High School Physics competition was coming up soon. In his past life, Lu Jingyan didn't take the college entrance exam but was admitted to Tsinghua University directly through this competition. What should I do? How could I let him succeed so easily this time? If I couldn't destroy his life step by step, then what meaning was there in my life? Song Shuyao kept sending me messages on QQ. Non-stop. I resumed my usual serious tone and urged her. You, what are you thinking about all day? None of this matters. Campus romance is like grains of sand, you can't hold onto, a breeze will scatter them. What matters most to us is, of course, our education and future. Romance is just a little seasoning in life. She didn't have an abortion. Lu Jingyan hid her away. My mother and Lu Jingyan's mother were colleagues, and I often heard his mother complain that Lu Jingyan had been spending more and more money lately. Probably because he was feeling the pressure as the competition approached. You're too focused on yourself. Too obsessed with success. In this world, some things are more important than academic achievement and fame. But unfortunately, you'll never understand that. What I'm doing is just studying and taking exams like a normal person. People say I'm just doing it for personal gain. People really do love to label others. What would that be? Is there anything more important than studying right now? This is the most important thing for me and Lu Jingyan right now. Nothing else matters. Fine. Bookworm. One day you'll understand. Song Shuyao went to great lengths to make me understand. So in the following years, Lu Jingyan skipped class more and more frequently. He even dared to miss 2 special tutoring sessions taught by well-known teachers that the school had specially arranged. Song Shuyao and I were working hard to make sure Lu Jingyan lost his chance at early admission. Since I had been given a second life, I also took on the mission of getting rich. At first, I tried to convince my mother to buy stocks, but she just thought I'd gone crazy from studying too much every day. Time was tight and couldn't be wasted. My parents divorced when I was a child. So basically, my mother raised me on her own. I had some education funds saved in another account. I took the risk of taking the money while she was asleep and deleted the notification messages beforehand. Fortunately, because my mother had gone through all this before, she told me the card password right after I finished the college entrance exam. After that, I went to an internet cafe and opened a stock trading account. Before the physics competition, I had multiplied this several times over. I transferred the principal back to that card and used the profits to sponsor a girl from my school named Li Yen, who was on the verge of giving up on the college entrance exam. Her grades were as good as Lu Jingyan's, but because her father was seriously ill and she had to take care of her younger siblings, she had no choice but to give up on the exam and take on the burden of supporting her family. When I offered to sponsor her, she looked very surprised. I made up an excuse, saying that a colleague of my mother's at work wanted to help her. She was moved to tears. Recently, Lu Jingyan was either skipping class or falling asleep as soon as he got to the classroom. After all, taking care of an emotionally unstable pregnant woman was difficult. On the day of the finals, he almost showed up late. I was standing on the 3rd floor balcony looking down when I saw Song Shuyao running toward him with her hand on her belly. She thought she'd spotted me and quickly hid behind a nearby tree. I pretended not to notice, chatting with Li Yen as I walked cheerfully into the exam hall. A few days later, the results were announced. I didn't place, which was expected given my previous academic record. I had earned master's and doctoral degrees in medicine and biology. I was here just to gain some experience and also to make sure Li Yen and another person made it to the exam safely. In my past life, a student from a neighboring school, Xia Chen, had gotten into a car accident on the day of the exam. In this life, I got to know him early in the competitive class and guided him down a different path. I was more than happy to have more and more opponents go up against Lu Jingyan. As I expected, Li Yen took first place. Second place went to a boy who had also ranked in his past life. Third place was Xia Chen. Lu Jingyan had completely missed his chance. On the day the results came out, the teacher comforted him, saying, "Jingyan, it's okay. There's still the college entrance exam. I believe you have the ability to get in." You just need to adjust your mindset. Have you been sick lately? Lu Jingyan lowered his head and was silent for a moment, then mustered his courage and said, "It's okay. Teacher, I'll do just as well on the college entrance exam." I sat there reading, trying my best to resist the urge to look at him, afraid that the hatred in my eyes would be impossible to hide. "Lu Jingyan, you're dreaming. If I let you pass the college entrance exam smoothly, why would I have come back to this world? If you haven't hit rock bottom, how can I live? If you haven't gone to hell, this is just the beginning. I won't give you another chance to turn your life around." In the last semester of senior year, we got busier and busier. I spent every day encouraging Song Shuyao, painting a beautiful picture of college life for her. I searched online for bloggers and WeChat public accounts that shared stories of college couples and sent her the links. "Shuyao, why don't you come back to college? If you don't go to college, you'll always have regrets in life. I think dating in college is more meaningful. We've all made it through high school, and college is a time of youth filled with common interests and hobbies. It's wonderful. Do couples really have to have things in common? When two people are together, they definitely need to have similar values and get along well. Look at my parents, their personalities were too different, so they got divorced. Don't worry about that. Yuan, have you made up with Lu Jingyan?" Sigh. I don't want to think about it. I'll deal with the future when the time comes. I didn't give her a clear answer. I always gave her vague replies. It wasn't until the college entrance exam was approaching that I finally took the initiative to talk to her. Yao, to be honest, I don't understand why Lu Jingyan didn't place in the last competition. Even though we had a big fight, he didn't seem to be in good shape. I still hope he gets into college. I heard him say in class today that he's allergic to peanuts. Do you think I should buy him some allergy medicine? I didn't want Song Shuyao to miss this opportunity, so I made sure to tell her about it. Lu Jingyan took the college entrance exam very seriously. His mother even personally brought him meals. But in the end, he missed the exam. On the day of the exam, he was rushed to the hospital due to an allergic reaction. However, because he was taken there too late, prolonged oxygen deprivation seemed to have caused some brain damage. The reason he had an allergic reaction was that he kissed Song Shuyao, who had eaten peanuts earlier. Song Shuyao was worried he would recover too quickly, and it took her a long time to notice that his face had turned a purplish red. On the second day of Lu Jingyan's hospitalization, I was still taking the college entrance exam. As soon as I walked out of the exam hall, I planned to grab some lunch and rest well so I'd be fully prepared for the next exam. Song Shuyao came to see me with a bouquet of baby's breath. Her eyes were red from crying. Yuan. I'm sorry. I've been too afraid to tell you what happened between me and Lu Jingyan. What's going on? She looked down at her belly with guilt and said, Yuan, the last time I came to borrow money from you, it was actually because I was pregnant. Oh. I calmly accepted her surprise. Don't you want to know who the father of my child is? Who? It's Jingyan. Yuan. You don't blame me, do you? I gave her a cold look and said nothing. It was absurd that I had ever considered someone like that a friend. Seeing that I didn't say a word, she shoved the bouquet into my arms and said, Yuan, you'll bless us, right? He gave me these flowers. He said baby's breath symbolizes love that silently protects you. Yuan, I believe you'll find the right person too. I didn't catch the bouquet. I let it fall to the ground. Then I stomped on it hard, grinding it into the dirt, and said, Then why did you choose to tell me today? My dear friend. Yuan, that's not what I meant. How could you think of me that way? Why would I think of you? My dear friend. Look at you, Urea joke. You don't really think I'd be interested in a loser like you, do you? Only you treat him like a treasure. Now he's lying in the hospital, and even if he recovers, he'll probably still be drooling. You just be a good wife and mother and take good care of your big son and little son. But from today on, we're no longer friends. Qin Yuan, what do you mean by that? I kicked the flowers into the nearby trash pile and sneered. Nothing special. It just means we're breaking up. Got it? Qin Yuan, what's so great about you? You're smarter than me. You have a mother who loves you. I could hear her cursing behind me, but I didn't care. 3 days after the college entrance exam, Lu Jingyan still hadn't been discharged. The exam results came out quickly, and I chose the same school as in my past life. However, Lu Jingyan decided to repeat a year, but things didn't go as smoothly as he had imagined. First, the allergic reaction had caused him to stop breathing for too long, resulting in some brain damage. According to a classmate who was also repeating the year, Lu Jingyan couldn't even make it into the top 100 in the graduation exam or the recent diagnostic exams. Second, Song Shuyao's child was born. This could no longer be hidden. Lu Jingyan's parents hated Song Shuyao, feeling that she had ruined their precious son, and wouldn't even look at her. Meanwhile, Song Shuyao's family had been looking for her and found out she had already given birth. This made her father furious. He was so angry he nearly fainted on the spot. Lu Jingyan was exhausted every day by these trivial matters. I was thrilled and continued doing experiments for 2 more weeks. I wanted to graduate early. I wanted to quickly accumulate the resources and achievements from my past life, which were actually easier for me to master than high school knowledge. By the end of my first semester of college, Lu Jingyan was on the verge of dropping out. His mother complained to my mother every day about what her son would do in the future. I was so considerate. Of course I had to help them. I introduced Lu Jingyan to the best fertility specialist in B City, who was my senior. Lu Jingyan's mother had actually been wanting a second child for a long time, but Lu Jingyan had been in poor health before and couldn't get pregnant. Why? Because of all kinds of challenges at school, combined with all kinds of trivial matters at home. Lu Jingyan didn't even take the college entrance exam this time and dropped out. Song Shuyao's family had given up on her. Lu Jingyan kept pressuring his parents to take care of Song Shuyao until he learned that his mother was pregnant with a second child. He completely broke down. He screamed and yelled like a madman at home. His father pinned him to the ground and beat him before he finally calmed down. I decided to leave the company and find a job. I didn't have a formal education, and I wasn't as sharp as in my past life. In the end, he decided to work in a factory. Song Shuyao stayed home to take care of the child. To be honest, he seemed to be in a pretty bad situation right now. But whenever I remembered the image of the knife slicing open my abdomen in my past life, I really wanted to skin him alive and break his bones. However, since he wasn't causing any trouble now, I didn't have any other options. It wasn't until Li Yan and Xia Chen came to visit that Xia Chen invited us to go to a bar to relax. At first, both Li Yan and I wanted to refuse. But Li Yan thought about how I had been holed up in the lab all day and eventually changed her mind, dragging me along. The lights were flashing. Young boys and girls were swaying their bodies, and the strong rhythmic music filled the night sky. The drunken figure swaying before me seemed to turn into Song Shuyao. I was momentarily stunned, and before I could react, I overheard 2 girls next to Meth, one with long hair asking the short-haired one, "Do you really not remember who?" He snapped back to reality. Yes, from the time I reunited with Lu Jingyan to our marriage, several years had passed. How could such a cautious and careful person have gotten a high school girl pregnant? Moreover, I knew almost everything about my past with Song Shuyao and all her relationships. So in my past life, I never imagined she would end up with Lu Jingyan, because she had always had a steady boyfriend. A leaf can block everything. I might have a good impression of Mount Tai, but after all, I couldn't be completely sure. Would Song Shuyao really be that crazy? Thinking of this, I quickly left the bar that night and contacted a private detective. Just as B City welcomed its first spring snow, I received the news. Before dating Lu Jingyan, Song Shuyao had a boyfriend, the son of a wealthy local real estate developer, named Qin Hao. They had kept it very low-key, and most importantly, there were signs that they might be getting back together. Now, things were getting interesting. One night, Lu Jingyan was dragged to a bar by his colleagues to relax. He had originally planned to go home and take care of the child, but he couldn't resist his colleagues' enthusiasm. He lived simply but still wanted to be a good husband and father. That night, instead of relaxing, He was quickly changed into work clothes and assigned to a part-time job at the bar pouring drinks for customers. But before he could even walk over, he saw his wife taking the initiative. She was kissing another man. He was about to rush over when he heard his wife say in a soft, sorrowful voice, "How? Are you still mad at me? You wouldn't even talk to me back then. And I was pregnant, the child and I both needed someone to take care of us." Lu Jingyan felt his world collapse in an instant. He mustered every ounce of strength to stop himself from confronting the despicable couple. He took off his work clothes and returned to that filthy, dilapidated urban village. He kept thinking about how he had ended up in this situation. When did it all start? Was it the day he found out Song Shuyao was pregnant? Or was it that half-hearted attempt to steal the exam spot? Or perhaps he should have completely forgotten that kiss on the day of the college entrance exam. Or was it when his middle-aged parents suddenly got the idea to have a second child? He felt overwhelmed by wave after wave of sudden strange events, powerless to resist until he completely broke down. He bought a lot of alcohol, the most expensive liquor he'd had in nearly 2 years. He had once been so miserable, and now he couldn't even do that. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol. First, cheap liquor usually tastes bad and gives you a headache. Second, Song Shuyao really hated the smell of alcohol. He truly, deeply loved her. Once, he thought she was full of vitality, like a dazzling light in his gloomy world. But now he understood. This wasn't the glory of igniting a suffocating abyss. Step by step, he had become her sacrifice. She enjoyed his life without a care in the world. When Song Shuyao finally came back, Lu Jingyan had no idea how many bottles he'd drunk. Her face flushed red. She asked with barely concealed disgust, "How much have you had to drink? Who could stand living with you like this?" Lu Jingyan sneered. Song Shuyao felt somewhat guilty and didn't dare look at him. He strode over to the sofa, picked up the child, and said, "Lu Jingyan, you can't push all the mistakes in your life onto others." That sentence completely enraged Lu Jingyan. He kicked her, and the caught-off-guard Song Shuyao was sent flying, her head smashing into a bottle, blood immediately gushing out. The dazzling red light excited Lu Jingyan. Song Shuyao, seeing his bloodshot eyes, was terrified out of her wits and hurriedly tried to persuade him. "Jingyan, don't be impulsive. Think about our child." That was the last thing he wanted to hear. As soon as she mentioned the child, Lu Jingyan became even more agitated. "Your child? Whose child is it? Jingyan, what do you mean? Are you accusing me?" Song Shuyao trembled with fear. Lu Jingyan took the opportunity to smash another bottle and roared, "I'm asking you, whose child is this? You bitch." He used the shards of glass to slash her pretty face. The pain of the skin being cut, Song Shuyao's screams, and the child's crying all assaulted his senses at once. Countless images flashed through his mind. In the basement, the woman's heart-wrenching cries replayed in his mind like a movie scene. He felt like his head was splitting open. He swung his arms wildly, smashing another bottle. He grabbed the bottleneck, and the sharp, long shards cut into Song Shuyao's skin, making her gasp for breath. He looked at her flat belly, and in that instant, he thrust with all his might. The movement was so familiar, as if he had done it before. He was startled awake by a neighbor's knock, when he saw Song Shuyao lying beneath him, covered in blood. He panicked and let go of the glass shards in his hand. Then he jumped out the third-floor window and fled. Fortunately, Song Shuyao's motorcycle was parked downstairs, under the cover of night. He escaped the city like a rat. I learned the rest of the story from the detective. Song Shuyao's face was completely disfigured, and she had lost the ability to have children. The rich young man, Qin Hao, didn't even recognize the child. She had no choice but to wear a mask and work as a cleaner to support her child, while Lu Jingyan disappeared without a trace. That afternoon, I suddenly received a call from an unfamiliar number. "Qin Yuan, have you gotten your revenge? You've ruined my life. Are you satisfied now?" I quickly realized it was Lu Jingyan. "How can you say I'm taking revenge? Isn't this helping you? Why did you disappear? What about your partner and child?" "Shut up. You bitch. I won't let you get away with this." How ridiculous. Why can't you just leave me alone? You're nothing but a disgusting worm. How dare you compare yourself to me? Haven't you checked my background? I'm a world-renowned medical and biological scientist now. Do you really think you can get close to me? It's best to let the fish take the bait. Over the next 2 years, I appeared frequently on various talk shows, constantly working to maintain my exposure and sharing some of my daily life mansions, luxury cars, and a handsome driver to chauffeur me around. Meanwhile, Lu Jingyan was on the run across the country. Every time I appeared, I posted detailed information, including the time and location. Online, Lu Jingyan must have thought about getting revenge on me, but my security was very tight, couldn't even get close to me, until I took his parents away. My senior held an exhibition on assisted reproduction. That day, I received a text from an unfamiliar number that said, "You're online. You've pushed me to the brink of despair. If I go to hell, I'm taking you with me." In the end, during one event, he hid in a ventilation duct 2 days in advance and finally found me. As soon as he came out, he was almost caught. To escape, he smashed a nearby floor-to-ceiling window and ran into the nearby greenery. It wasn't hard to catch him, but how could I let him off so easily by just sending him to prison? That would be the best thing for him. I just wanted to keep provoking him, stirring up his emotions. Only then would he desperately want to get revenge on me, and only then would he be angry enough to lose his mind. Over the next few days, I played this game a few times and got bored. Soon, word spread that I was going to Country A for research. This time, we chose to travel by ship, partly for marine biology research and partly because the route would pass through international waters. Anyone who kills often knows that the high seas are the easiest place to commit crimes. Lu Jingyan, you have to seize this opportunity. I've given you this perfect chance. The high seas at night were pitch black and endless. Lu Jingyan was caught by security as soon as he appeared. I deliberately left a research paper in the cell where he was being held about how to make men pregnant. In reality, no such experiment actually existed. I wasn't bored enough to specifically research that. I just wanted to scare him into breaking down. As long as he struggled desperately, he could break free from the hemp rope binding him. On this vast ocean, there were only 2 yachts. The other belonged to a group of wealthy playboys. Night patrols weren't strict, so Lu Jingyan stumbled and jumped off the deck. He hated me so much that he climbed onto the other yacht and tried to curry favor with those men. That must have been hard. Those guys were notorious for their wild ways of having fun. In my hometown, they were almost every man's nightmare. The next time I saw Lu Jingyan, he looked terribly haggard. He limped over, his buttocks tightly clenched. He lay on the bed, listlessly letting the doctor examine him. As soon as he saw me, he became agitated. "Kill her. Kill her. You promised me that if you let me." One of the men walked over and slapped him, saying, "Promised you? Promised you what? Do you really believe what a man says in bed?" Lu Jingyan clutched his butt with one hand and his face with the other, staring at the man before him in disbelief. I had to admit, he looked pitiful. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Unfortunately, these business magnates were notorious for their ruthlessness. One of them glanced at me, then at Lu Jingyan, whose eyes were bloodshot, and immediately pulled a belt from his waist and whipped him. "You like to scream, don't you? Go ahead. Then, scream." As soon as Lu Jingyan started running, his wound burned with pain. In the end, he had no choice but to squat down, cover his butt, and let the man beat him. I'd had enough and turned to leave. One of the wealthy men grabbed my arm and pressed me. "Dr. Chin, is it really true that men can't get pregnant? This guy's crazy. He's been trying to find a man to have his child. That's why he's been following me and why he called me here today. He even said he'd pay a fortune for me to research this. Why would I look into that? I think it's illegal." But I kept thinking about Lu Jingyan lying on the bed injured, his butt sticking up in the air. A malicious impulse rose in my heart, and I deliberately threatened him. "Let's talk about this in private." Lu Jingyan's hysterical voice kept coming from behind the door. I thought, my revenge ends here. I could only try to find a way to send him back to the country to serve his sentence. But I never expected to receive this news a few months later. Lu Jingyan picked up a knife and slit open his own belly. He had been suspecting he was pregnant. On the one hand, he had been at sea for a long time, trapped in his own cabin. On top of that, he had suffered mental torture from those men. It drove him insane. He really believed he was pregnant. He couldn't accept himself like this. In the end, he used a knife to repeatedly cut open his abdomen, reached inside, and shouted, "Come out. All of you, come out." After Lu Jingyan died, my life seemed to lose all its joy for a while. I no longer paid any attention to Song Shuyao. I found it really boring. I still occasionally had nightmares about my past life. But I was no longer afraid. My mother was worried about my condition, so she had been taking care of me since she retired. I didn't want things to turn out this way either. But after all, people aren't machines. After experiencing so much hatred and malice, you become numb. Until one sleepless night, I took 2 sleeping pills and fell into a deep sleep. For the first time, I saw the world after my death in my past life. My mother looked at me lying in a pool of blood. Her eyes filled with pain. She carefully stitched up my wounds. By then, Lu Jingyan had become all-powerful. My mother didn't confront him immediately. In fact, she pretended not to know anything. She continued to take care of him. And finally, on the day he let his guard down, she lit the gas stove at home. A fire took the life of the person who had hurt me. Through the flames, I could see her tears. It was heartbreaking. Until the very end, she cried out, "My Yuan Yuan, my Yuan Yuan, my heart is breaking. You must have been in so much pain. Right. You must have been in so much pain. Right. My Yuan Yuan, don't be afraid. Mom dragged him down to hell. No one can hurt you anymore." I woke up with tears streaming down my face. My eyes met my mother's, filled with love. She gently wiped away my tears and said, "Yuan Yuan, did you have a nightmare? Mom will make you some warm soup." I threw myself into her arms and held her tightly. Being loved helps you heal. As long as my mother is still here, I'm willing to enjoy life to the fullest and love this world again. God gave me a second chance. I've learned so much. And I've become very rich. I can make the world a better place. If there really is a God in this world, then I am willing to do good deeds in this life in exchange for being reunited with my mother in the next.